If you're a die-hard Browns fan and love breaking down the game like we do, hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell so you never miss a blitz. Alright, Browns fans, buckle up because here comes a take that might just twist your stomachs into knots. Deshaun Watson, the former Cleveland Browns quarterback whose tenure was, to put it mildly, disastrous, might actually step back onto the field wearing that orange and brown again. Now, before you scream in protest, let me break down this wild scenario that's buzzing around, courtesy of Max Loeb from Honor the Land. Despite 3 rough seasons, Loeb suggests that owner Jimmy Haslam could potentially throw Watson into action late next season if, and that's a big if, Watson is fully recovered from his Achilles injury. The idea, use him as trade bait. Sounds crazy? Yeah, but stay with me. Loeb's theory goes like this. Imagine the season is basically a lost cause. Jimmy Haslam, a man known for thinking outside the box, might decide to shake things up and throw Watson into a meaningless Week 18 game just to see if he still has any trade value left. This wouldn't be about winning that last game. It's about what Watson's presence on the field might spark in terms of interest from other NFL teams. It's a desperate move, sure, but one that could potentially bring back another draft pick or some form of compensation. Now, here's the kicker. Both head coach Kevin Stefanski and general manager Andrew Berry are reportedly not on board with playing Watson again. They've effectively closed the door on him, signaling no future with the team as their starting quarterback or even a backup in meaningful moments. It's a firm stance reflecting the frustration and disappointment from those 3 tough years where Watson's play and off-field issues just didn't align with the Browns' aspirations. But, as Lowe points out, the owner's opinion can override even the coaching staff's wishes. Jimmy Haslam holds the keys, and if he's convinced that Watson still holds some trade value, he could direct the coaching staff to give Watson a shot in a low-pressure environment, especially after the rookies like Shedeur Sanders or Dillon Gabriel have had their chance. This could be seen as a way to test the waters without risking too much, and it might provide the Browns leverage in negotiating a deal during the offseason. It's a cold business move, but one that makes sense in the brutal economics of the NFL. Loeb stresses that this isn't about the Browns planning a long-term future with Watson. Far from it. It's a very narrow scenario where Watson's role is reduced to a strategic asset, a chess piece used to try and get something back after what has been a costly investment. The Browns clearly want to move on, and the fans, they want to move on even faster. The idea of seeing Watson back on the field, even briefly, is probably a nightmare to many in Cleveland. Instead, fans are dreaming about the possibilities with the new quarterbacks, Shedeur Sanders and Dillon Gabriel. These rookies represent hope, a fresh start, and the future of the franchise. Their development and performance could very well determine the Browns' trajectory in the coming years. The thought of them playing in that season finale instead of Watson is far more palatable and exciting for the fan base. It symbolizes a clean break and a real commitment to rebuilding. Of course, this whole situation highlights the complicated reality of managing big contracts and controversial players. In the NFL, Watson's contract is massive, and cutting ties without any return is a brutal financial hit. Using him as trade bait, even in a symbolic way, might be the Browns' way of trying to recoup some value from an investment that didn't pan out as hoped. It's a harsh but pragmatic approach to a tricky situation. In the end, this potential Watson cameo isn't about loyalty or fan sentiment, it's pure business. And in the NFL, business sometimes means making moves that ruffle feathers and test patience. Browns fans have been through a lot with Watson, and this news might stir up old wounds, but for the front office, it could just be the smartest way to squeeze a little something out of a rough deal. So while Cleveland's faithful might collectively cringe at the thought of Deshaun Watson suiting up again, the reality is that Jimmy Haslam's willingness to take a gamble might force the Browns to give Watson one last shot. Not because they believe in him as the future, but because they want to make the most of a complicated, expensive past. And that's a storyline worth watching as next season unfolds. Enjoying the content so far? Smash that like button and drop your take in the comments. We want to hear what you think about the Browns this season. In a move that no one saw coming, the Cleveland Browns have reportedly traded veteran quarterback Joe Flacco in a behind-the-scenes deal that stunned fans, analysts, and even insiders around the league. Just months after what many considered a fairy tale run with the Browns, Flacco is on the move again, and not a single whisper leaked before the news dropped. The NFL is no stranger to surprise trades, but this one hits differently. Flacco was embraced by the Cleveland faithful as a symbol of resilience and redemption, especially after stepping in mid-season and taking the team to the playoffs. To see him quietly shipped out the back door with no press conference, no farewell, message, and zero fanfare feels like an emotional gut punch to Browns Nation. How did this happen under the radar? Why was it done in secret? And most importantly, what does this mean for the future of the franchise? The Flacco saga in Cleveland was one of those rare feel-good NFL stories that even the most cynical fans couldn't help but admire. After injuries left the Browns scrambling for answers at quarterback, they turned to a 38-year-old free agent most believed was past his prime. What followed was nothing short of miraculous, with poise, accuracy, and a calm under pressure that can only be earned through years of battle. Flacco gave the Browns life. He led game-winning drives, rallied the locker room, and became an unlikely hero in a city starved for consistency under center. Browns fans didn't just respect Flacco, they adored him. He represented hope. He represented the kind of football that Cleveland has yearned for decades, which is why this sudden departure feels so jarring, so personal. It's not just about losing a quarterback, it's about losing that quarterback. Let's talk about the silence surrounding this move, because it's deafening. No leaks, no speculation, no cryptic tweets from insiders, just a sudden announcement dropped like a bombshell in the dead of night. According to early reports, this deal was orchestrated with the kind of secrecy normally reserved for high stakes, free agent chases, or top draft picks. Why the cloak and dagger approach? Some sources suggest that the Browns didn't want to stir panic among the fan base. Others believe the front office might be playing a long game, attempting to clear space or assets for a larger move in the works. But here's the thing. This isn't just a chess piece. It's Joe Flacco. This is a player who brought stability to chaos, and that kind of leadership doesn't grow on trees. If the Browns wanted to make a business decision, that's their prerogative. But the way it was handled, that raises serious questions. What adds another layer of confusion is the timing. The offseason is the perfect window for teams to evaluate talent, reset rosters, and build for the future. Yet with training, camp's still a ways off. There was no urgent reason to rush a deal like this. Unless, of course, the Browns had already lined up a successor or identified a pressing need that couldn't be addressed otherwise. We still don't know which team acquired Flacco or what the Browns received in return, which only deepens the mystery. A late-round draft pick? A young prospect? Cap relief? At this point, fans are grasping for clarity. The front office's silence is fueling frustration, and rightfully so. In a sport where loyalty is rare and transparency is often sacrificed for strategy, this move feels like a betrayal. Not because Flacco left, but because fans were left in the dark. To understand how we got here, we need to revisit what Flacco meant in the locker room. Teammates raved about his leadership, his composure, and his willingness to mentor younger players. Coaches credited him with stabilizing a volatile quarterback situation and bringing calm to a franchise often defined by chaos. He didn't come in demanding spotlight or guarantees, he just worked. And when the moment came, he delivered. That kind of character matters, especially in a league where egos often clash and chemistry can make or break a season. Losing Flacco isn't just about stats or arm strength. It's about losing a culture setter, a tone definer, someone who made everyone around him better. And for a team still trying to define its identity, that loss could ripple far deeper than fans or media realize right now. From a broader league perspective, this trade could have massive implications. Teams with quarterback uncertainties. Think the Patriots, Falcons, or even the Raiders could view Flacco as a bridge or mentor for a younger prospect. In fact, Flacco's recent run with the Browns may have raised his stock higher than it's been in years. He showed he can still sling it, still read defenses like a veteran, and still win games when it matters. For any contender in need of depth or a steady presence in the QB room, Flacco's value just skyrocketed. But again, that raises the question. If his stock was this high, why didn't Cleveland make a public spectacle of the trade to maximize value? Why was it all done in the shadows? If they truly believed in transparency and trust with their fan base, this was a misstep of monumental proportions. The backlash online has already begun. Browns Twitter is in shambles, flooded with disbelief, confusion, and a healthy dose of anger. Reddit threads are spiraling into conspiracy theories. Sports talk radio is ablaze with speculation. Did Flacco ask for a trade? Was there internal tension we never saw? Or was this simply a cold, calculated decision by a front office that values assets over sentiment? Either way, the reaction has been loud and visceral. Because fans weren't just watching Flacco play. They were watching him lead. They were watching him bring dignity back to a position that's been a revolving door in Cleveland for years. And now that presence is gone, and nobody seems ready to explain why. Even for those who supported the Browns' long-term plan, this trade is hard to justify without context. What does it say to the locker room when a respected veteran is sent away without warning? What message does it send to younger players about loyalty and reward? And most importantly, how does this help the team win now? Because make no mistake, Cleveland isn't in a rebuild. They're in win-now mode. The defense is elite, the offensive core is loaded, and expectations are sky high. Removing a player who proved he could deliver in high-pressure moments seems like a risk with very little upside unless there's a blockbuster move coming down the line. And if that move doesn't materialize, then this might go down as one of the most baffling miscalculations in franchise history. In the days ahead, more details will surely emerge. Maybe we'll learn that Flacco requested a move to a team with a clearer path to a starting job. Maybe we'll discover that the Browns were forced into action due to financial constraints or internal disagreements. Or maybe, just maybe, this was a front office trying to get ahead of a brewing controversy and failing spectacularly in the process. Whatever the truth is, it won't change how fans feel right now because this hurts. It hurts to lose. A player who gave the team his heartbeat. It hurts to be blindsided. And it hurts to realize that in the end, sentiment often loses to strategy in the cold business of football. So where does that leave the Browns now? In a strange limbo, honestly. They still have talent. They still have coaching. They still have ambition. But they no longer have the man who brought those things together in the most critical stretch of last season. Flacco may not have been the future, but he was a steadying presence in the present. Without him, the Browns must now rely on the very instability that made Flacco's presence so essential in the first place. And as for the fans, they'll mourn, they'll rage, and eventually they'll move on. But they won't forget. Not the games, not the leadership, and certainly not the way he was taken from them in silence. Thanks for riding with us on another Browns Blitz. If you liked the video, share it with a fellow fan, hit subscribe, and ring that bell so you're always part of the Dawg Pound conversation. Go Browns!